Hello, in this video we're going to look at a monopoly with constant marginal cost, and then we're going to calculate consumer surplus, producer surplus, and the deadweight loss. So here's the inverse market demand facing the monopolist, and the monopolist total cost, 2 plus Q. First thing we're going to do is maximize profit. We're going to calculate revenue as price times quantity. For P, I'm going to plug in 11 minus 0.25 Q. So we have the inverse market demand here multiplied by Q, so just price times quantity. Simplifying that a little bit. And now we're going to take the derivative of the revenue function with respect to Q output, and that'll be marginal revenue. So marginal revenue is 11 minus 1/2 Q. You'll notice that marginal revenue looks like the inverse market demand, but the slope here is twice as steep. And then taking the derivative of the cost equation to give us marginal cost, we get marginal cost constant at $1. To maximize profit, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So plugging in the marginal revenue equation, setting that equal to marginal cost, and solving for Q. 11 minus 1 is 10, and then dividing through by 1/2. The profit maximizing output is 20. Plugging 20 into the inverse market demand, we get a profit maximizing price here of $6 per unit. An alternative way of calculating the profit maximizing outcome here is just to calculate a profit function, which is revenue minus cost. And as we saw, the revenue equation is 11Q minus 0.25Q squared, subtracting out total cost. The minus 2 is the fixed cost we're subtracting out, and then the minus Q represents the variable cost. Taking the derivative of the profit function with respect to output, we get the following. And you'll notice that the first two terms here on the right-hand side, that's really marginal revenue, and the second term here represents marginal cost. So moving some things around, we got marginal revenue equal to marginal cost coming out of this first order condition, solving for Q, and then solving for the price, same thing. Let's look at this graphically. So graphing our inverse market demand, it has a vertical intercept of 11. So here's our demand curve, vertical intercept of 11, and the horizontal intercept is going to be calculated by taking 11 and dividing it by 0.25, and that gives us 44. Essentially here for the horizontal intercept, we're setting price equal to 0 and solving for Q. For the vertical intercept, you're setting Q equal to 0 and solving for price. Likewise with marginal revenue, vertical intercept is 11, so when Q is 0, marginal revenue is 11. And the horizontal intercept is 11 divided by 0.5 or 22, and that is calculated by setting marginal revenue equal to 0 and solving for Q. And finally, marginal cost is constant at $1, so just horizontal line here at $1. One other thing to note here is that the marginal revenue curve, since its slope is twice as steep as the demand curve, the horizontal intercept will be halfway between the demand curve and the origin. So instead of 44, it's 22. All right, moving on. Getting into the consumer surplus, producer surplus, deadweight loss part of this video. Consumer surplus is going to be the area of the blue triangle, just the difference between the height of the demand curve and the profit maximizing price, $6, up to the last unit sold, which is 20. So area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So the dimensions of the triangle are going to be 11 minus 6 and 20 minus 0. And calculating this, then we get consumer surplus of $50. Producer surplus, when we have constant marginal cost, it's going to be the area of a rectangle. And it's going to be this rectangle right here, which is going to be width times length. So the dimensions here are 6 minus 1 and 20 minus 0. So we get producer surplus of $100. Again, just the difference between the price and the marginal cost, all the way up to that last unit sold. And finally, the deadweight loss is going to be the area of this yellowish, goldish looking triangle. So again, it's a triangle, so 1/2 base times height. And the dimensions of this triangle are 6 minus 1 and 40 minus 20. So we get a deadweight loss of $50. The only one issue here is where did that 40 come from? Well, you can kind of see it in the graph, but it's simply where price equals marginal cost. So to find where marginal cost intersects a demand curve, set the price equation equal to marginal cost. Our price equation from the first slide equals $1, the marginal cost, and solve for Q. So Q equals 40. That, by the way, would be the competitive output level. So for a competitive market, we expect price equal marginal cost, and there'd be 40 units brought to the market. The monopolist produces less than the competitive output level, 20, so there is a deadweight loss. The value of these units, given by the maximum willingness to pay by the height of the demand curve, exceeds the cost of bringing these units to the market, and that is the deadweight loss. All right, that's it. I hope you found this video helpful.